Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Dharma Helper, and this is DH Reviews. This is my Gotham Season 1 Episode 1 review. And if you missed earlier, I put out a video where I talk about my thoughts and predictions for the series of Gotham, which I will link in the description of this video, as well as an annotation right here by the Joker. If you see the Joker, click him, and he'll take you to that video. In this video, I'd like to start off talking about the technical aspect of the episode, and then I'd like to talk about the story of the episode, and then I'd like to talk about the characters, and then sort of wrap the review up here with my general thoughts on the episode and on the series moving forward. So with that said, technically I thought the show was filmed and shot beautifully. We got this real sense of Gotham City as a character. And we got this sense that Gotham City is tense, and it's dirty, and it's claustrophobic almost. There was a scene where Donald Logue's character, Harvey Bullock, was in a bar, and the bar was packed, and you really got this sense that Gotham City was not a safe place. And it's almost a powder keg, ready to just, Carmine Falcone in another scene, he says that Gotham City was on a knife edge. And you really got that sense just by the way everything looked and by the way things were shot and the tension between characters like Fish Mooney and the Penguin have a scene that's really tense. And I'll talk about the characters again in a second, but I really enjoyed the tension and the atmosphere that the shots created. Another scene that I thought was very beautifully filmed and kind of hit home to me and drew me into the series more was a scene of the Gotham skyline at night. It was a smoky sort of nighttime scene, and there was a huge tower in the scene, and it was that iconic scene with the Batman spotlight, the bat signal, but there was no bat signal, and that idea sort of hit me, and it sort of clicked that there is no Batman. There is no Dark Knight. There is no guy who's going to do the right thing, clean up the streets. It's up to Jim Gordon, and it's up to Harvey, and it's up to the police, and just ordinary people in the series to do the right thing and to bring Gotham City back from the knife edge that Carmine talks about in the episode. In terms of the acting of the episode, everybody got into their characters really well, and that was something that I was looking forward to, was seeing this interpretation of these characters. And people like Corey Michael Smith, who played the Riddler for all of 35 seconds in the episode, but he really got into his character and that sort of playful back and forth that the Riddler is known for, and he really delivered on so many levels in just a short amount of time. Robin Lord Taylor as the Penguin was initially very servile and docile, and over the course of the episode, I'll talk more about the characters, like I said, in a second, but over the course of the episode, the Penguin really goes through a transformation, and I'll talk about that. And just hats off to Robin Lord Taylor for a really great opening episode for the Penguin. Catwoman Selena Kyle, her character was very well done, even though she didn't even have a line in the episode. You could really see, just by the way she moved and the way she acted and the way she looked at things, what she was thinking and her character. Sean Pertwee as Alfred, that sort of sassy butler, very protective, very witty. You got a very good sense of that character. Ben McKenzie as Jim Gordon, the lead character. You got a great sense of his character in terms of his moral code and his ability to do the right thing. And Donald Logue, again, like I said in my predictions and expectations video, excellent job in this episode. He really got into Harvey's sort of charismatic, roguish character, but also a survivor, and there's something else underneath that he tapped into that I think we're going to see over the course of the series. But overall, again, everybody really did great acting in this episode. The writing in the episode, again, was fantastic. There were very iconic and very important lines in the episode, like I said, Carmine Falcone explains that Gotham City is on a knife edge, and we see that over the course of the episode. I hope we see that over the course of the season. Harvey has a really good line that he says to Jim Gordon. He says, you seem like a nice guy, but this is not a city or a job for nice guys. And I think we're going to see more of that over the course of the season, just like we saw that at the end of the episode, which I'll talk about at the end of the episode. If I had to nitpick in terms of the writing, there was the scene with Edward Nygma, Jim Gordon, and Harvey Bullock, where Harvey says, Edward, if I wanted riddles, I'd read the funny pages. And that sort of nod to Edward being the Riddler. I thought, that's okay, but if they keep beating us over the head with that stuff, and saying, stuff like Catwoman, that's one cool cat, or, the Penguin, his stuff, they sort of hinted at that, but a little bit lighter, or Poison Ivy, if they start to, poison her, hints like that, where it's just over the top. As long as they keep that in line, I think they should be okay. But, it took me out of the episode a little bit. But, moving on, let's talk about the actual story of the episode. It opens up with Catwoman, and she's stealing from people at a marketplace, and she steals milk first, and then she steals some guy's wallet and his money, and she runs off, and she gives the milk to this cat, and then she runs away from these people as they're coming after her, and she finds herself in an alleyway, and then Bruce and his parents, Bruce Wayne and Thomas and Martha Wayne, are coming out of a play, and they head into the alleyway, and if you know anything about Batman, you know where this is going. A mugger jumps out at them, and he sticks them up. He has his gun, and he's got a mask on, and you can't see his face. And he asks for their money, and then he asks for the necklace. And then he rips the necklace, and the pearls sort of spatter all over the street. And in my mind, I'm sort of like, if you're that desperate for money and the necklace, why would you rip it and break it? So my mind is already going into detective mode, and I'm thinking, maybe there's something more to this. And then we see later when they're shot, and then Jim and Harvey arrive at the scene. Jim is talking to Bruce, and Bruce says that the mugger had really shiny shoes. And to me, right, my mind is going again. If you have all these shiny shoes, that to me says that you're not necessarily a mugger or a vagrant, and that there was something else going on with that shooting. And Jim Gordon sort of gets the same idea. And so we have Jim Gordon and Harvey Bullock sort of trying to figure out who killed Thomas and Martha Wayne over the course of the episode. And I'll talk more about them, like I said, in a second, but just over the course of the episode, they come across Fish Mooney, who is a character that I didn't know about leading into the series, and she's played by Jada Pinkett Smith, and she's this crime boss, but not really as much of a big shot as Carmine Falcone, who I'll talk about again in a second. But she is Oswald Cobblepot's boss, and you see with the fish and the penguin, you see that sort of play at words there. And so Harvey talks to Fish Mooney, and it's clear that they have a relationship that they're not really ethically, they have a relationship that's not necessarily ethical. And Harvey dismisses Jim to go back into the alleyway because there is this fight in the alleyway that the Fish and Harvey didn't really care about, but Jim was like, guys, they're beating up people in the alleyway. So Harvey dismisses Jim, and he has a private conversation that we don't get to see with Fish. And then we go into the alleyway, and Jim sees that Oswald is beating this guy with a bat. That's sort of laughing about it, and we see this first taste. We see the first taste of power in terms of Oswald Cobblepot, and I'll talk more about that, like I said, when I talk about the characters of the episode. But it's his first taste of power, and this first idea of Penguin coming into his own. And I like that. I like that we see already this progression of characters into the characters that we're more familiar with. So they come back, and then Harvey talks about how he got a lead from Fish Mooney about this gentleman, Mark Pepper. And so they go investigate. They go investigate Mark Pepper, and it turns out that he is a felon on parole, so they don't need a warrant or anything like that. And they go in, and when he sort of gets the idea that these are cops and they're not gonna it's not gonna end well, he runs and he starts shooting at Jim and all that. And so Jim runs after him, and they get into a fight, and Harvey ends up killing the guy. And then they go back to his apartment, and they find the pearls, Martha's necklace, in a bag of what looked like heroin or cocaine. So that to them is enough to close the case and say that Mark Pep is the guy that killed Martha Wayne and Thomas Wayne. But we find out that the Penguin is working with the Major Crimes Unit, Montoya and her partner, who I'll talk about very briefly when I talk about the characters. But he's pretty much snitching on his boss, and he says that Mark Pepper was set up by Fish Mooney and by the Gotham Police Department. And MCU gets the idea that Harvey and Jim were involved in the setup. Because after they solve the case, they get all this attention as being sort of hero cops that brought these guys to justice really quickly. So Montoya brings that idea to Barbara Keene. And Barbara Keene is Jim's fiance. And we get the sense that that Montoya and Barbara had this relationship in the past. And I don't think that that's going to be as much of a big deal as they're making it out to be, in terms of the way that Jim might react when he finds that out. But I think that Barbara keeping the secret is going to be a bigger deal than what the actual secret is. It's going to be one of those scenarios where Jim is going to get his own idea of why she's lying to him and acting shifty, and it's going to be a lot worse than the actual truth. So Barbara and Jim talk about, did you set him up? No, I didn't set him up. Who told you that I set him up? And Jim goes to Montoya and says, if Mark Pepper was set up, I'll find out myself. You don't have to, go to my fiance or go behind my back. And so he goes back to the Pepper house. And again, something I want to talk about in terms of the evolution of these characters. Mark Pepper's daughter is Ivy, and that's Poison Ivy. And we get the sense that when Jim comes back to their apartment, that she blames Jim and Harvey for her father's death, and she sees the police as sort of corrupt and villainous entities of their own. And I like that idea that we start to see the formation of her character and the reasons behind why she becomes Poison Ivy so early. So for as well as the Penguin, and then again Poison Ivy, I like the idea that we see the beginnings of these characters very, very early here in the series. So he goes back and he says, if your husband was set up, you need to tell me, and you need to let me in. You need to let me help. So he goes and he looks and he says, "Can I see your husband's shoes?" And so Ivy's mother and Mark Pepper's wife shows him their closet with all these shoes, and they're all dirty and muddy and not nice shoes. So Jim sort of gets the idea that he was actually set up, and so he goes back to Fish and he says, look, either you tell me the truth or something's going to happen here. And Fish, and he gets the idea that, I can't go to my partner with this because I'm afraid he's going to lie to me. And Fish says, okay, you know what, you caught me. And she acts like she's given up. But as soon as Jim has his back turned, she clocks him over the head, and she takes him to this butcher shop where he's essentially going to get killed. And Harvey, who had warned Jim in the past, stay away from it, let it go. What's done is done. If Mark Pepper didn't do it, we're going to lose our jobs, that sort of thing. So Harvey is met by Barbara Keene, and Barbara says, I haven't seen Jim in a long time. Do you know where he is? And Harvey covers for Jim, and then he goes to the butcher shop to talk to Fish and to talk to Gil about letting Gil being Fish's sort of right hand muscle. About letting Jim go. And so he says, you gotta let my partner go, you can't be killing cops, that sort of thing. And Fish instructs Butch Gil, I think his name is Butch Gil something. Fish says to Harvey, okay, I'll let you go. Give the phone back to Butch. And she tells Butch to kill Harvey as well. And so knocks Harvey out. And Gordon and Harvey are hung up on these butchery racks, and they bring in this guy who's got an executioner's mask on, and he's got a chainmail sort of vest on, and that's going back to what I said about, looking like its own show and acting like its own show, and it felt like a comic book. Like, that felt like a character you'd see in a comic book. So it looks bad for them, right? And then at the very last second, Carmine Falcone and his men bust down the door with shotguns and blast a couple of guys, and they instruct Butch Gil, or whatever the guy's name was, to let the cops go, and then let Fish know that if she wants to kill police, she has to ask permission. And Carmine Falcone, we get the sense that he's this very pragmatic, business-minded criminal. And he talks to Jim Gordon about how he and Jim Gordon's father, who was a DA, which we learned earlier in the episode, how they were friends almost, and they had this relationship and this understanding. And he says, pretty much that's the only reason why you're alive right now, is because I liked your father and we had a relationship and an understanding. So he gives Jim the idea that Gotham is on a knife edge, and going after the corrupt police and going after the corrupt mayor's office and all this stuff might not be the best idea, because those sort of people are what's keeping Gotham safe from complete collapse. And taking that away sort of throws the whole thing to hell in a handbasket almost. And at the end of the episode, Harvey and Jim Gordon sort of drive out to this dock. And I should mention that earlier in the episode, Fish Mooney, after her conversation with Jim Gordon, discovers that she had a rat, and the only rat possible in her mind was the Penguin, Oswald Cobblepot. And so she confronts Oswald, beats him up, and hurts his leg, and he's sort of wobbling around. And we sort of see that sort of imagery of him as a penguin, sort of wobbling. And so back to the very end of the episode, Harvey and Jim are driving to this dock, to this pier, and they pop the trunk, and it's Oswald, and they get him out, and Harvey says, look, we have to kill Oswald, or they're going to kill you, they're going to kill me, they're going to kill Barbara. So you have to do it, because Carmine said you have to prove yourself as a team player. And if you don't do it, I'm going to kill you. I might not want to. I might struggle to do that. I might, have doubts about it, but I'm going to do it, because if I don't, they're going to kill me, and they're going to kill Barbara, and they're going to kill you. So Jim marches the Penguin out to the end of the pier, and I'll talk about I have something I want to add to this scene in a second, but he marches him out to the pier at gunpoint, and I knew, like I said, this being an origin story, and the Penguin being alive in the time of Batman, I knew that that the Penguin would be alive and that he would survive this encounter, and Ben wouldn't actually, and that Jim wouldn't actually shoot him. So he marches him out, points the gun at his face, says, "Turn around, don't ever come back to Gotham," and he shoots the air and he drops him into the water. And the episode ends with him, with Penguin, Oswald, coming out of the water, and going up to this fisherman and slicing the fisherman's throat with what looked like a fishing knife, a knife that you would use to scale a fish or something like that. And that's that imagery of the fishing knife and Fish Mooney, and that I enjoyed that. That was very well written, very well done. But going back to the idea that we knew Penguin would survive. And we also know that Harvey and Jim would survive their encounter in the butcher shop because they're alive in the time of the Batman. And that sort of idea of these characters their fates already being established in the future, I think that's going to take away from the dramatic tension of the series, in terms of putting these characters in danger and then expecting the audience to be drawn into, invested in that danger. But if they get around that, they can do that very easily, I think. But if they do, then hats off to them, because, like I said, we know that these characters survive, so that kind of takes away a little bit and takes us out of the episode. But that's where the episode ends. Harvey thinks that Jim killed this guy, and the guy comes out of the water and he slits the guy's throat, and we see that final sort of transformation into what Oswald Cobblepot is as the Penguin. And I like that, and I think that's going to be a huge part moving forward. So, talking very briefly about my thoughts overall on the episode. Very, very nice episode. Very good start to the first season here. I think that we're going to see the Penguin and his warpath and his vendetta against Fish Mooney, and his idea that, in the episode he talks to the MCU, and he talks about how he talks to Jim, and he talks about how he sees a war coming, and how Fish Mooney and Carmine Falcone are sort of old hat. And I think we're going to see him sort of gain a bunch of followers and start a gang war almost. And I think that would be very cool to see that progress as the season goes on. Catwoman, over the course of the episode, she follows Bruce after the events in the alleyway, and I think we're going to see her sort of her fascination with Bruce develop over the course of the season, and I'm interested to see maybe if she teaches Bruce parkour or fighting or pickpocketing, and because Bruce, over the course of the episode, we see him sort of start the early phases of becoming Batman in terms of conquering his fear, and we see him sort of develop this mentality of, I'm glad that Mark Pepper was framed, because that means whoever killed my parents is still out there, and I'd like to see him again one day. And we see that, and I like that. And I'd like to see those two interact, because they're a lot closer in age than I thought they would be, and I think that makes sense for them to interact. Alfred, his sort of protective nature, I think, is going to play a huge part in the season. His back and forth with Jim, very briefly, I think, was indicative of future events. And like I said in my predictions video, their relationship progressing over the course of the season. The Riddler, I'd like to see more of him, because we only got to see like 15 seconds, 35 seconds of the Riddler this episode. I'd like to see more of him over the course of the season. And much like the Penguin progressed, and much like we saw Ivy progress this episode, I'd like to see sort of the catalyst and the reason behind the Riddler start to turn bad over the course of the season, obviously. Ben McKenzie, right? Jim Gordon. I'd like to see him sort of, like I said, I'd like to see that storyline with his fiance and with Montoya develop and rack at his brain, and he's a detective, and he sort of gets the wrong idea. I'd like to see him struggle with having to kill the Penguin over the course of the season. And I'd like to see him sort of battle the idea of Carmine Falcone and his advice that Gotham was on a knife edge, and if you do all this stuff, you're just going to make the problem worse. Harvey, I'd like to see as the devil on Jim's shoulder over the course of the season. And I'd like to see him do his best to protect Jim, but also not be not a good person, but be the devil, like I said, the devil on Jim's shoulder over the course of the season. Carmine Falcone, Fish Mooney, I want to see more of that develop, because it seems like they're going to have stuff is going to kick off very soon in that regard. Fish Mooney and the Penguin, I'd like to see a confrontation there over the course of the season. Stuff is going to kick off in that regard as well. And Poison Ivy, we saw the very beginnings of Poison Ivy sort of playing with the plants and her resentment and hatred towards police. I'd like to see more of that over the course of the season. So that does it for characters, I believe. And then, like I said, overall, very good episode. And I liked what I saw for the first episode, and I think we need to see more of that moving forward. I hope they continue up this, like I said in my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. review and my Agent Carter review, the pacing is a very important aspect of the show, and I hope they keep very strong pace over the course of this first season. What I'm looking forward to in the next episode, I think they immediately need to address that Barbara, Montoya, Gordon scenario. I think Harvey needs to sort of draw Jim into his idea of police work and draw Jim further down the rabbit hole. I think we're going to see more of the Riddler coming forward in this next episode. I think we're going to see the Penguin marshaling his forces and getting all his pieces on the chessboard in this next episode. And my final thought, again, somebody in the Gotham Predictions and Expectations video mentioned that the Gotham writers or somebody had written and talked about having a character be the possible Joker in each episode. And in this episode, Fish Mooney was talking to a comedian on the stage, and I think that was supposed to be this episode's Easter egg Joker. So maybe next episode I want to see if it's more subtle and it's not always a comedian or a guy telling a joke in terms of the different aspects of the Joker. So with that said, that wraps up my Season 1, Episode 1 review of Gotham. Follow me on Twitter at the DH Reviews. If you like the episode and you like this review, leave a like. Subscribe so you can see my other videos coming out. Tomorrow I'll be reviewing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, Episode 1, which comes out tonight, Tuesday, 9/8 Central on ABC. So look out for that video coming out. Leave a comment. Let's talk in the comment section if you want to talk about anything I talked about or didn't talk about or might have missed. I'm very interested to talk to you guys in the comment section, as always. Yeah, look out for those videos. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. And again, Gotham is Mondays on Fox at 8 p.m. What did you guys think of the episode? So with that said, again, I've been Dharma Helper. This has been DH Reviews, and that's all I've got for this video, so I will see you guys next time.